hi everyone, we are the Group 6 and today we will be discussing all about bonds. So, what are bonds? So, bonds basically is a debt security. It's like an IOU. So, borrowers issue bonds to raise money from investors willing to lend them money for a certain amount of time. So, when you buy a bond, you are lending to the issuer, which may be a government, municipality, or corporation. In return, the issuer promises to pay you a specified rate of interest during the life of the bond and to repay the principal, also known as the face value or the par value of the bond when it matures or comes to its maturity date. So let us now move on to the characteristic of bonds. So first is the face value or the par value of the bond. So face value or the par value of the bond is the amount of the bond at maturity and the reference amount of the bond issuer uses when calculating interest payments. So it is written or basically stated when the issuer issue you the bond. Next one is the coupon rate or coupon rate. It is the rate of interest the bond issuer will pay on the face value of the bond expressed as a percentage. So this is the interest rate you will gain after the issuer pays you the bond. Then we proceed to coupon date. So coupon date is the date on which the bond issuer will make the interest payment. So it depends on when you and the issuer agreed to have or when the maturity of the bond is, which is I will be discussing next. So this is the maturity date. It is the date on which the bond will mature and the bond issuer will pay the bondholder the face value of the bond. It can be in 3 months, 1 week, or whatsoever. Next one is the issue price. So issue price is the price at which the bond issuer originally sells the bond. In many cases, bonds are issued at par. So, but there are times that issue price is not equal as the par value to make the transaction faster. So, in case, for example, the bond is at 11 pesos, issuer may offer it at 10 pesos to make the bond sell faster. So, it depends on the issuer. What are the benefits and risks of bonds? Bonds can provide a means of preserving capital and earning a predictable return. Bond investment provides steady streams of income from interest payments prior to maturity. The interest from municipal bonds generally is exempted from federal income tax and also may be exempt from state and local taxes from resident in which the state the bond is issued. So what are the risks of bonds? So just like with many investment, bonds come with the risk. So first one is the credit risk. Credit risk may fail to is in line with the issuer, which may fail to timely make interest or principal payments and thus default on its bond. So this one involves default of the issuer. Interest rate risk. Interest rate change can affect also a bond's value. If bonds are held to maturity, the investors will receive the face value plus interest. If sold before the maturity, the bond may be worth more or less than the face value. Rising interest rates will make newly issued bonds more appealing to investors because the newer the bonds is, the higher the rate of interest than older ones. To sell an older bond with a lower interest rate, you might have to sell it at a discount because it's already old. Next one is the inflation risk. Inflation is a general upward movement in prices, just like what is happening now with us due to the closure of San Juanico Bridge. Some items in our market is or rather the economy is in Eastern Samar is experiencing slight inflation, if we call it that way. So inflation reduces purchasing power, which is a risk for investors receiving a fixed rate of interest. Next one is the liquidity risk. This refers to the risk that investors won't find a market for the bond, potentially preventing them from buying or selling them when they want. There are times when bonds is not applicable to some investors or market, and then one who receives the bonds will have difficulty in selling or buying them, and it is called liquidity risk. Call risk is the last risk, and this one involves the possibility that a bond issuer retires a bond before its maturity date. So, something an issuer might do if interest rates decline. Much like a homeowner might refinance a mortgage to benefit from lower interest rates. So, rather than wait for the interest to climb up, an issuer might decide to pay a bond before the maturity date, when he or she sees that the interest is at lower price. So syempre, if the interest is lower, the lesser the amount you will need to pay. So issuer grab the opportunity at this time. So it is called call risk.
It's now time to discuss the different types of bonds.
We have 6 different types of bonds: the government bonds, municipal bonds, corporate bonds, zero coupon bonds, convertible bonds, and inflation-protected bonds. 6 different types of bonds. So the first one is the government bonds. When we say government bonds, this type of bonds that are issued by national government and are considered low risk, especially the stable government. Let's say, for example, the treasury bonds or the T bonds, issued by the U.S. Department of the Treasury, typically with maturities of 10 to 30 years. That means that investor can lend the money to the government and receive regular interest payments and return of principal at maturity. And one is the municipal bond. This bond issued by state or the local government. Let's say, for example, the New York City Municipal Bond. It helps fund infrastructure and may offer tax-free interest to investors, often exempt from federal taxes and sometimes state and local taxes as well. The third one is the corporate bonds. This bond issued by companies to fund businesses or activities. They offer higher returns than government bond but carry more risk. Let's say, for example, the Apple Incorporation corporate bond, used to finance operations, buy back stock, or fund innovation. That means that the creditworthiness of a company affect the bond risk and interest rates. Fourth one is the zero coupon bond. This bond pay no interest but sold at a deep discount and redeem at face value at maturity. Let's say, for example, the U.S. Treasury Street, securities that pay no interest until the maturity. That means that the return is the difference between the purchase price and the value at maturity. The fifth one is the convertible bonds. When we say convertible bonds, this bond can be converted into a determined number of shares of issuing companies. For example, the Tesla convertible bond could be converted into Tesla stock at specific conditions. That means it attractive if the company's stock value increases, offering potential equity upside. And the last one is the inflation-protected bonds. This bond designed to protect against inflation by adjusting principal based on inflation rates. Let's say, for example, the U.S. Treasury Inflation Protection Securities or TIPS. The principal adjusts with the Consumer Price Index or the CPI. That means it helps to maintain purchasing power over time.
Fundamental relationship between bond prices and interest rates.
In this report, we will explore the fundamental relationship between bond prices and interest rates, as well as the key measures used to evaluate bond yields. Section 1. Bond price behavior. Bond price is inversely related to interest rates. This means when interest rates rise, bond prices fall. When interest rates fall, bond prices rise. Why does this happen? Bonds pay a fixed interest known as the coupon payment when new bonds are issued with higher rates due to rising market interest rates. Older bonds with lower coupon become less attractive. Therefore, their prices must fall to offer competitive returns. Section 2. Key factors affecting prices sensitively. Several factors influence how sensitive a band's prices is to charges in interest rates. Maturity longer-term bond are more sensitive to interest rate changes. Coupon rate bond with lower coupon rates exhibit greater sensitivity. Credit rating bond with lower credit rating indicating higher risk tend to be more volatile in prices. Section 3. Measure of yield. To access the return on bond, investors use several yield measures. A. Current yield CY. The current yield is calculated as CY equal to annual coupon payment divided by current market price. This provides a snapshot of the return based on the bond's current price. B. Yield to maturity YTM. YTM estimates the total return an investors would earn if the bond is held until maturity. It accounts for all coupon payments and any difference between the purchase price and the face value. Mathematically, it solves this equation. P equal to current price of the bond, C annual coupon payment, F equal to face value of the bond, and equal to number of periods until maturity. C. Yield to call or YTC. YTC is similar to YTM but assumes the bond is called or repaid early before its maturity date. This is particularly relevant for callable bonds. D. Yield spread. This is the difference between the yield of two bonds. Yield spread are often used to compare the risk between different types of bond. E. Duration and convexity. Duration measures a bond's price sensitively to interest rate changes. It approximately the percentage change in price for a 1% change in interest rates. Convexity goes a step further and adjusts for the curvature in the band's prices yield relationship, offering a more accurate estimate of price changes for large interest rates shift.
Basic features and operating characteristics of mutual fund.
Mutual funds is an investment fund that pool money in any investor to purchase securities such as stocks, bonds, short-term debt that combined holdings of mutual funds are known as its portfolio. And mutual funds are regulated by governmental bodies and are required to publish information including performance, fees charges, and securities held. Here are the basic features of mutual funds. First, diversification. In mutual funds, spreading an investment across different sectors to reduce risk. The fund manager is the one that manages the portfolio of some securities to reduce the impact of any single investment performance. Second, professional management fund. Fund managers with expertise in selecting investment and managing portfolio. They are the one who help investors to save time and effort on managing their investments. Third, liquidity. Meaning, investors can easily convert their holdings into cash. The mutual funds allows investors to get shares for the current NAV. When we say NAV, it's net asset value. Here we go with the fourth. Fourth, transparency. The portfolio in which money is invested is disclosed at regular intervals, as prescribed by the regulations. The net asset value or NAV must be published daily. And for the last, the accessibility. In mutual funds, they allow investors with a large or low capital in invest or access in funds. Second, professional management fund. Fund managers with expertise in selecting investment and managing portfolio. They are the one who help investors to save time and effort on managing their investments. Third, liquidity, meaning investors can easily convert their holdings into cash. The mutual funds allows investors to get shares for the current NAV. Here are the basic features of mutual funds. First, diversification. In mutual funds, spreading an investment across different sectors to reduce risk. The fund manager is the one that manages the portfolio of some securities to reduce the impact of any single investment performance. When we say NAV, it's net asset value. Here we go with the fourth. Fourth, transparency. The portfolio in which money is invested is disclosed at regular intervals, as prescribed by the regulations. The net asset value or NAV must be published daily. And for the last, the accessibility. In mutual funds, they allow investors with a large or low capital in invest or access in funds.
A mutual fund is a financial vehicle that pools money from shareholders to invest their securities like stocks, bonds, and money market instruments. So here are the characteristics of mutual fund. Number one is a pooling of money. Investors contribute funds which are then managed collectively. Both types of funds allow multiple investors to pool their money in a single fund that invests in stocks, bonds, and other assets, or some combination of these investments. Each fund shares represent an investor, proportionate ownership of the fund's portfolio, and the gains of losses of portfolio. This pooling allows investors access a wider range of assets than they might individually, and it also reduces the risk associated with investing in individual securities. The purpose of pooling money in mutual fund is to create a diversified portfolio, manage it professionally, and offer investors a way to invest in broad range of assets with relatively low minimum investment amounts. Number two, investment strategy. Fund managers allocate assets based on the fund's objectives, such as growth, income, or stability. They invest primarily in government and high-quality corporate debt, holding these bonds until maturity provide interest streams. While fund holding may rise in value, the primary goal is to offer a steady cash flow. Number three, returns to investors. Investors earn return through capital gains and income distributions such as dividends or interest. Investors can earn returns through capital gains when fund holding increase in value, dividend and interest distributions, or selling shares for a profit. Key benefits include professional management, diversification, and relative low investment minimum. True fees and expenses can impact returns. Number four, fees and expenses. Mutual funds charge management fees, administrative costs, and sometimes exit loads, which impact overall returns. Investors in both types of funds must pay fees and expenses regardless of how the fund performs. Depending on the type of fund, these fees and expenses can include sales charge of brokerage, commission, annual fees, management fees, and other expenses.
Hi everyone, my name is Bella Avila, and I will be discussing about closed-end and open-end funds. Before we proceed to the differences between each funds, we will define first definition of each funds. First, what is closed-end funds? So closed-end funds is a funds that have fixed number of shares issued by fund, while open-ended funds do not have the limit and the number of issued shares. However, the primary differences between two lie in how they are organized and how investors buy and sell them. We will be proceed to the differences of each funds. First, the difference is open-end mutual funds. wherein investors can enter or exit the fund at any time by purchasing or redeeming units, while on the other hand, closed-ended funds or investors can only buy or sell units by the fund when they are listed on the stock market or stock exchange. The second differences are investors bear the cost of buying or redeeming units through transaction fees or load charges, while on the other hand, in closed-ended funds, investors incur brokerage commissions when buying or selling units on stock exchange. And the third one can be suitable for investors seeking flexibility and the ability to enter or exit the fund at any time. A closed-end funds can be suitable for investors seeking exposure to specific sectors or strategies for a fixed investment period. So, now we proceed to the example of each fund. In open-ended funds, investors can buy or redeem units directly from the fund company through intermediaries, while in closed-ended funds, investors buy or sell units through a stockbroker or stock exchange. The second example are large universe of open-ended funds available to investors across various assets, classes, and investment. On the other hand, limited number of closed-ended funds available of the specific investors' objectives or strategies.
And now, let's move on to the various types of fund loads and charges. First, let us define what is fund load. A fund load is a mutual fund that comes with a sales charge or commission. The fund investor pays the load, which goes to compensate a sales in intermediary, such as a broker, financial planner, or investment advisors, for his time and expertise in selecting appropriate fund for the investor. There are different types of load an investor may encounter. First, a front-end load. It is also called class issues, is a one-time fee paid by the investor when the shares are purchased. The second one is a back-end load, or class B shares, is a one-time fee paid when shares are sold. The last is the level load funds. It is also known as class C shares, are yearly charges, and are a fixed percentage of the fund's asset. The charge for a load fund. By law, the maximum sales fee a load fund can charge is 8.5% of your investment, although most charge in the 3% to 6% range. Funds also trim commission for higher investment level. Still, there's usually no reason to pay any commissions if all you want is access to fund and not financial advice.
That would be all from my group. I hope you learned something about bond and mutual fund. Thank you very much.